Ryan was a 35-year-old software developer living in a newly rented apartment in downtown Sydney. After a tough day at work, he was looking forward to a quiet evening. It was a modern building with security cameras and electronic locks, safe and perfect for someone living alone. But that night, something strange and unexplainable would make Ryan question everything. The clock struck 11:45 p.m. as Ryan leaned back on his couch, sipping coffee and scrolling through his favorite tech forums. The soft hum of the city outside his balcony was the only sound accompanying him. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, a notification from the building's security app. "Motion detected on your floor," the alert read. Ryan frowned. The hallway was usually empty at this hour. He opened the app to check the live feed from the security camera. At first, the screen showed nothing unusual, just the dimly lit hallway outside his apartment. But then, from the far end, a figure emerged. It was a man, tall and dressed in a black coat, walking slowly but deliberately toward Ryan's door. His face was obscured by the shadow of his hood. Ryan's stomach tightened. Who would be wandering the hall this late? And why was he walking so directly toward his apartment? The man stopped a few feet from Ryan's door and turned to look directly at the camera. His face was pale, almost featureless, with sunken eyes that seemed to stare straight through the screen. Ryan's chest tightened as the man leaned forward, staring into the lens before turning and disappearing off camera. Ryan quickly checked the door to ensure it was locked. "It's just a drunk guy," he muttered, trying to calm himself. But deep down, unease settled in. Minutes later, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway. Slow, heavy, and deliberate, Ryan's heart raced. He turned off the lights in his living room, hoping to stay unnoticed. Knock, knock. The sound was light but firm, coming from his front door. Ryan didn't move. He held his breath, waiting for the stranger to leave. "Hello? Is someone there?" He called out after a few moments, his voice betraying his nerves. There was no response. Just silence. Then, the doorknob jiggled. Ryan's blood ran cold. He grabbed his phone to call the building security desk, but the line went dead before it could connect. A chill ran down his spine. The footsteps moved away from his door, but now they sounded inside the apartment. Ryan's heart stopped. That wasn't possible. He had locked the door, and the only other entrance was the balcony, 5 stories above the street. "Who's there?" he shouted, grabbing a heavy wrench from the toolbox near his desk. No answer. The footsteps moved toward the kitchen. Ryan crept forward, his hands trembling as he held the wrench. The kitchen light flickered once, then went out. He slowly stepped into the dark kitchen. Everything seemed untouched, but the air felt colder. That's when he noticed it. Muddy footprints leading from the kitchen toward the bedroom hallway. Ryan's breath quickened as he followed the trail. The hallway stretched into darkness, feeling much longer than it ever had before. The footprint stopped just outside his bedroom door. The door was slightly ajar. The room beyond was pitch black. "Who are you?" Ryan demanded, forcing his voice to stay steady. A soft chuckle echoed from the darkness. Not a human laugh. Something hollow and unnatural. The door creaked open wider, revealing the faint outline of a figure standing at the far end of the room. It was the same man from the hallway, his head tilted at an impossible angle, a wide, toothless grin stretching across his pale face. Ryan froze, unable to move as the figure began to step closer, each movement unnatural and jerky, as though it were a marionette pulled by invisible strings. The lights flickered, and in that moment of darkness, the figure disappeared. Ryan stumbled back into the living room, his heart pounding. He checked every lock and window, but the apartment was empty. Yet, he still felt eyes watching him. The next morning, the building's security team reviewed the camera footage. Strangely, the hallway feed showed no one approaching Ryan's door and no sign of anyone leaving. But the footage from Ryan's own door camera was another story. As the security guard played the tape, his face turned pale. The footage showed Ryan stepping out into the hallway, his face blank, his eyes staring straight ahead, before walking down the corridor and vanishing into the elevator. Ryan, however, insisted he had never left the apartment. To this day, he can't explain what happened that night. But every so often, when he's alone in the apartment, he hears the faint sound of footsteps in the hallway and the quiet chuckle of something that refuses to let him forget.